In Sudan, a civil war has been raging for almost a year now.
Foreign actors are staking a claim in the conflict too, sending a steady flow of foreign weapons into the country.
Let's talk about what's happening in Sudan, a country in ruins since its founding. Currently, what the UN calls is the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world. Not Gaza, not Ukraine, not Yemen, but this place. Why and who is fighting, and when did it start? It all started with a disagreement between these two people, and the world either ignored it or supported one side. Abdel Fattah al Burhan, head of the official military and also the de facto ruler, as he is the president. Second person is Mohammed Hamdan, commonly called Hameti, head of the RSF, a powerful militia, and also his vice president. And the devastation they have caused while Khartoum is in ruins. As the proverb goes, if you want to know the end, look at the beginning. Until now, since their independence, there have been 35 coups in Sudan. The one important in the story is the one done by this military commander, Omar al-Bashir. But he was afraid of the military, as people before were overthrown by the military, SAF. So he funded another militia and made RSF, whose leader was Hameti. And both helped him do countful atrocities, the biggest being in Darfur, where more than 200,000 were killed, and also in the south, where there were 383,000 total deaths, which after the civil war gets independence as South Sudan. And Sudan loses about half of their oil reserves. Despite this, he continued supporting them. He did it so he doesn't get overthrown himself and is safe. Keep in mind, he spent more than half of the country's budget on them, while the people of the country were barely surviving. Spoiler alert, people who are struggling started resisting and protesting for democracy. And it got out of hand. And this dictatorship became not practical and useful. So then both SAF and RSF teamed up and overthrew Omar al-Bashir. However, all in vain for the people who wanted democracy. So people continued protesting, while both SAF and RSF used violence to try to stop them, all while claiming they would restore democracy. Now these two were the rulers, Burhan and Hameti. But things got very bad to worse due to one thing, which was that the SAF wanted to merge RSF into SAF, the official military, which would make Hameti irrelevant or the second person again. So the conflict started. Sudan is loaded with resources: gold, zinc, silver, chromite, and iron. This is stuff that foreign countries need and want. So powerful countries are watching this military commander showdown and evaluating who they should support, who will best secure their interest in the future. Burhan has developed alliances with the leaders in the Middle East, Europe, and Asia over the years. While Hameti is a rich man, a rich warlord in fact, who has gained riches under Omar al-Bashir during his time in the massacres in the conflict in Darfur, and is using his riches from the gold mine in Darfur to build relationships with powerful individuals in those countries as well, especially the UAE, which has provided weapons and supplies to the RSF via Chad and Libya. And Russia. Yes, Russia. Their private militia, Wagner Group, is already there, supplying and training RSF in exchange for gold and resources. And even Ukraine too. Many countries have provided or are providing weapons like China, Russia, Serbia, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and even Yemen. But by far the most important country is Libya, which helped in smuggling of weapons, resources, and most important being oil. Oil is that much important that a Libyan official said if we close the border between Libya and Sudan for fuel, the war will end. However, the support is not in stopping the fighting but making it worse. Sudan has a population of about 50 million, and about half of them, 24.8 million, are in need of help. By November 2024, about 61,000 have been killed in Khartoum alone. Khartoum is the capital from where the fighting started. Now it has moved to Darfur. About 150,000 people have been killed through the combined deaths of bombardments, massacres, starvation, and diseases. This is what makes it one of the most deadliest conflicts that are going on. This is what life looks like today for most Sudanese, still stuck in Sudan and not being able to leave their towns. And the ones who are, oh my, how many they are. Currently, 11 million people have left their houses and belongings behind to live a new, uncertain life, but at least a safer one. About 8 million people are displaced in their own country, and more than 2 million fled to neighboring countries, representing the largest displacement crisis in the world. Back to the ones who didn't leave. They are subjected to mass killings, and then their needs to survive. On safety, explanation has been done enough. The country is facing a hunger crisis, in fact, the world's biggest one. Some people and children look like shells due to malnutrition. As you can see, Sudan is a country that is half desert, hence causing water shortages on normal days. Now multiply it by war. It has become difficult to get water, so people are drinking unclean water. The UN Children's Agency warned that in conflict areas, children under 5 are 20 times more likely to die of diseases that are linked to diarrhea than to violence. 20 times. Staying in Sudan means limiting yourself to one of the lowest conditions of life on the planet. There's only so much they can do to help each other out with basic needs, and very few get the humanitarian help needed from abroad. But despite this, not much coverage on the matter. Why? The thing is, the conflict has about 0% impact in people's lives, aside from the Sudanese themselves. Yet, it isn't just in Europe and America, but even Africa. The African Union is unaffected by the catastrophe and hence implementing a policy of not intervening. The term forgotten conflict should be changed to limitedly forgotten, as countries only remember it when it suits their interests, while ignoring it when it doesn't. The second reason is lack of data. The de facto government authorities, which are allied with the Sudanese Armed Forces (SAF), revoked the license of 3 Arabic language media channels. The warring groups in Sudan are intentionally limiting news coverage to control the narrative and keep the world in dark about what's happening on the ground. In wars like Gaza or Ukraine, media coverage has made them more well known, drawing attention from around the world. The lack of media coverage in this crisis stops it from becoming a big issue for people or governments, allowing it to be overlooked. While the crisis is massive, the intentional limiting of information by those involved turns it to one of the most underreported and misunderstood conflicts. And that's what makes it the worst conflict currently going on. It's been 20 months since the war started in Sudan. It is barely in the headlines. It's time for everyone, Sudanese and non-Sudanese, to make noise about it. We saw Palestinian and Ukrainian voices ignite anger and outrage around the globe, and rightfully so. The stories, cultures, and histories of the Sudanese deserve the same attention. People care about what they learn or know, so we should talk about it, help financially if we can, mention it in talks, and pressure governments to stop ignoring, supporting, or doing these atrocities.